Hello folks and welcome back once again to the EUROCUP-3 Championship 2024. Just 3 races left of this season and we're at the Circuito de Jerez. Once again, the scene of the European Grand Prix of 1997, which saw one of the most controversial collisions in Formula One history, Jacques Villeneuve versus Michael Schumacher. This is the place where so many dreams are made reality. And on this particular circuit, we've got more great action coming up from EUROCUP-3 in the second race of the weekend. I'm Jake Sanson. Down on the pit road, it is Alex Garcia. Alex, it looks like it's going to be a pretty exciting one for the second race of the weekend.
I think so, Jake. To be honest, we saw a great race yesterday, and I think these guys have all they need to give us a good show. MP Motorsport has had a great qualifying this morning. The conditions were a little bit trickier with, higher humidity, visibility was a little bit more compromised, and they've performed to perfection. So we have the 4 MPs at the front, Campos behind, so that's enough ingredients to look forward to the race. We have Christian Ho, who is not starting as far ahead as he would have liked, so that's also important for the championship. We have Bruno Del Pino wanting to come back from that mistake yesterday. We know that he has the pace. He did an amazing recovery race yesterday, so I'm sure he's going to be wanting to prove everyone wrong today after, a pretty dismal day yesterday. And also I have, here behind me, we have Emerson Fittipaldi Jr., Emo Fittipaldi, who I think he has one of the interesting highlights of the weekend because his father just 50 years ago to the day became world champion for the second time. That was back in American circuit Watkins Glen, where he achieved the first title for McLaren in Formula One, and that was his last in the Premier category. So that's an interesting highlight considering that it's 5 decades exactly to this day. It's an exciting number. And to celebrate that, we have Fittipaldi in first row, which is pretty nice if I say so.
Yeah, he's definitely going to want to give his father a victory to celebrate and commemorate the honour. And it'll be fascinating to see how it goes. But there's going to be a lot of opportunities for overtaking. Whether they'll actually pull it off in these slightly cooler conditions than yesterday is going to be an interesting one to make out. Alex, thank you very much. We'll come back to you over the course of the race.
Thank you very much, Jake. Looking forward to this race, and we'll be in touch, especially if there's anything that we can report from the pit lane.
Gracias, mi amigo. So as the drivers make their way around the course on the formation lap, we can talk you through this mammoth grid in full, and it is an absolute washout from qualifying for the MP Motorsport Quartet. Who would have thought that they would have got themselves into the top 4 positions in such a dominant fashion? Obviously, there are 5 drivers in the team. George Jerez not quite at the same pace as the other 4. But Bruno Del Pino on pole position, Emo Fittipaldi second on the grid, the son of the 2-time Formula One world champion, Emerson Fittipaldi, who 50 years ago to the day won his 2nd world title at Watkins Glen in the United States for McLaren, becoming the youngest double world champion ever at that point. Javier Segredo, championship leader, will be going off 3rd on the grid, 4th place for Owen Tangavelu. It is an absolute MP washout. Here is the grid in full. Bruno Del Pino and Emo Fittipaldi. Javier Segredo and Owen Tangavelu. Then Michael Shin, the Korean for Campos, alongside his teammate and championship contender, Christian Ho. Jessica Deschado alongside Michael Belov. Then Valentin Klus of Germany and Nikola Tsolov of Bulgaria. Daniel Nogales and Georgi Janavsky next up. 13th on the grid, it is Theodor Jensen for Palou. Then James Headley, the British driver for Santalon. Luciano Morano and Noah Lyle, then Joao Diaz and the Mexican Diego de la Torre. Alexander Apkasava, winner at Portimao. Gaspar Lagaye, 20th, from Garrett Berry and Isaac Marashi. Then Linus Hellberg, Victoria Blokina and Emil Hellberg finishing off the 25-car grid. Track temperature is 31 degrees Celsius. Air temperature is already up to 21. We started the day at 18 degrees, so it's already going up pretty rapidly. And the track temperature is going to go up a few degrees through the course of this half-hour race. It's going to be an interesting one, and certainly Christian Ho was able to turn the tables on Javier Segredo yesterday. He managed to get himself to a position where if he wins every single race for the remainder of this season, then Christian Ho will be the champion, no matter where Javier Segredo finishes. But it's already been made much harder after qualifying, because Javier Segredo lines up 3rd, and Christian Ho lines up down in 6th. So the MP Motorsport team can go for as many points as they want. But as far as the championship is concerned, it's going to be really difficult for Christian Ho to get himself back into the lead. Not impossible, but he's going to have to do some serial overtaking moves here at Jerez. It's going to be a really tricky situation for everybody to battle away in top positions. So, with everybody lining themselves up in the rookie category, We've got Christian Ho ahead of Valentin Klus and Georgi Shadavsky. The other contenders in rookie, of course, are Theodor Jensen, Luciano Morano, Joao Diaz, Diego De La Torre, and then the five at the back: Garrett Berry, Isaac Barashi, Linus Hellberg, Victoria Blokina, and Emil Hellberg of the DXRT. So the 25 cars line up in position. There's only going to be one more race after this one. That's going to be the Spanish F4 third race. That'll be this afternoon. But the competitors are lining up in the grid positions. Don't panic about the car that's in the pit lane being wheeled by mechanics. That is actually the car that belongs to the Spanish F4 teams. So do not panic about that. So let's see the other contenders as they put themselves into their starting grid positions. Number 34, that is Georgi Shadavsky, lining up in the midfield, hoping to try and put himself closer to his teammates. The safety car at the back of the grid, getting ourselves ready for the start. When the lights come on, we'll be ready to race here at Jerez de la Frontera. The green flag waves in the back of the field. The lights will come on, and when they go out, we'll be racing. Let's race at Jerez! It's a perfect start from the front of the field from the MP4 quartet, but there's a big start through for Michael Shin. He's going to try and split them as he works his way forward. Good start from the pole sitter, though, as Bruno Delpino holds the lead this time. He stalled on the grid yesterday, not today. He's worked his way through and stayed ahead of Emma Fittipaldi as the rest of the field works their way through the first couple of corners, and that's a hard-charging Campos trying to come through to third position. Brilliant from Michael Shin. Excellent work from the Korean into third position, hustling Delpino and Segrera, who's come through to second place. Now Segrera's trying to get himself into that leading position, but he hasn't quite been able to get the momentum. Now Emma Fittipaldi trying to work his way forward behind Michael Shin, and Shin is now pulling across to try and thwart the attack from Emma Fittipaldi to protect the inside line. Horrendous start for Owen Tangavelu, who's down into 8th position behind Michael Beloff. So it's not gone well for him. So the quartet has already been broken up a little bit by the fast starting Michael Shin. Christian Ho, he's up into 5th position as well, and trying to dive up the inside line there. That is the move potentially on for Emma Fittipaldi. He really wanted to win this one. 50 years to the day since his father became world champion in Formula One for the second time for McLaren. But it's not going to be if he can't find a way past the inside line of Michael Shin. So currently it's Bruno Delpino leading Javier Segrera, and this is great news for the MP team and for Javier Segrera in particular, because Christian Ho has made progress, but so too has Javier Segrera. He's now in 2nd position with Christian Ho down in 5th. This is exactly what the team wanted. So now they can continue just in the early phase of the race to keep it nice and tidy together. What a brilliant start to this race, though. Lots of action early on in EUROCUP-3 on the first lap. And Garrett Berry is already in difficulties. Garrett Berry looks like he's pulling into the pit lane with damage. So problems then for the British driver, Garrett Berry. And that is definitely going to hold up his charge. But Delpino leads the way. Segrera in 2nd. This is more than going to make up for Bruno Delpino's problems yesterday. He stalled on the grid from 2nd place and had to fight his way through the field. He managed to make it as far as 11th position. But very sadly, that wasn't going to be good enough for him to take a point. So big disaster for Bruno Delpino yesterday. Now he's trying to put it right with a race win. Here comes Emma Fittipaldi, hanging in behind Michael Shin. He's going to dive in the hairpin, side by side. Can Emma Fittipaldi finish that off? No, he can't. They almost bang wheels. And Michael Shin holds station in 3rd position. Nice try, Emma. You're not going to get past me that easily. Great racing between the Korean and the Brazilian. So Michael Shin holds on. Emma Fittipaldi just trying to measure him back again. He knows that he can get close enough. But he's got to strike while the iron's hot. He wants a full podium finish. And he's going to have some pressure from Christian Ho behind him as well. Behind him, it is Jesse Cadasquedo, the other man at Campos. So in the top 6, we've got MP, Campos, MP, Campos, Campos. So 3 from each team in the top 6 positions. Owen Tangavelu really getting the worst end of the deal there. Now stuck behind the Drivex of Michael Beloff. 9th place is Daniel Nogales for Santalok, and in 10th place, it is Valentin Klus for Campos. So down to the braking zone for turn 1. And Michael Shin still hanging on at the moment from Emmo Fittipaldi, the son of Emerson Fittipaldi. Incredible to think that 50 years ago to the day, that man was becoming Formula One world champion for the 2nd time. And now his son, Emmo Jr., is doing a great job hustling Michael Shin. Got a little bit of wheel spin at the start, lost out to his teammate Javier Segreira, but this is great news for the championship. Segreira still looking good to become EuroCup-3 champion. And of course, in the second season of the championship, nobody from Spain has ever won in EuroCup-3 in the title race. Esteban Masson, the Frenchman, was the champion last year. So now it's time to see if Javier Segreira can win the championship, which is predominantly based on home soil. There are a few other races, of course, in various different parts of the world. Up on the inside again, Fittipaldi challenging to get the move on the inside line there. That was not easy. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. Bruno Del Pino, Javier Segreira in first and second place, but Emo Fittipaldi Jr. really putting pressure on Michael Shin. Segreira has the fastest lap of the race, 1:38.937 for him. He's trying to put pressure on Del Pino, but he doesn't have to beat him. He knows that Del Pino, okay, he's going to take 25 points for the victory, but after losing the race yesterday and not scoring points, he's actually got a big advantage over Del Pino. He can afford to have that little bit of extra. Now, what's happened to Segreira? Segreira has tumbled down the timesheets by the look of it and been replaced. So a little bit of an electronic glitch there, thank goodness. I mean, that could have been a real heart stopper if Segreira was out of the race. That would have blown this championship wide open, but it's not the case. There is Segreira running in second position. Then Shin, Fittipaldi, Ho, Carrasquedo, Beloff, Tangavelu, Nogales, and the German Valentin Klus. So I think we're going to see a replay of the start. Here we go again. Look at the bolt out of the blue that is Javier Segreira, a massive launch. And it was a bit of a non-start really for Georgi Żurawski. That's why there were yellow flags on the main straight, because poor Georgi Żurawski got left behind on the start. So there's one MP at the front and there's another right at the back. The only person behind him now is Garrett Berry for below, who had that pit stop. But this is a third place traffic jam now. Michael Shin is becoming the head of a Trilly train, as we like to nickname it in motorsport circles these days. It's a rather unfair nomenclature, but it was obviously named after Jarno Trulli, who had a bit of a habit of being fantastic on Saturday and got a great qualifying lap out of the car, but then in race trim, he tended to hold up cars in a long line as drivers were desperately trying to overtake him. And now Michael Shin is the locomotive, and he's got a long line of carriages behind him. Emo Fittipaldi desperate to get on the podium to at least bring home some silverware if he can't bring home the win. 50 years to the day since his father became world champion in Formula One for the second time. Can Emo Fittipaldi really make it happen? Well, Michael Shin is desperately trying to shake him off, but he's done so there without weaving. That's very important. He's actually placed the car in exactly the right position to throw Fittipaldi off in terms of the slipstream by enough that even though he can get back behind him, he can't make the move into turn one. They both slide through turn two. That is the effect of the dirty air that this place provides. And it's a little bit dusty, this circuit. It's a little bit tricky in terms of grip, but this championship, EuroCup-3, is all about tyre management. You've got to make it work in your favour. 1:38.701, new fastest lap of the race from Bruno Del Pino. Fastest rookie lap, by the way, is Christian Ho, a 1:39.65. So there's almost a second between them, and that's how much time Christian Ho is losing, being stuck behind his teammate Michael Shin and Emo Fittipaldi Jr. in the MP. So if Christian Ho could get ahead, he has a real chance, but at the moment, he's finding it almost impossible to get anything out of the car. And there's been an off in front of them. Now, the only car that's been in front of them is Del Pino or Segreira. So that shows you how hard they're pushing. They're kicking up dust as they work their way through. That could have been a complete game over for either Del Pino or Segreira, but it shows you how badly they want this. They are willing to stretch the limits pretty hard in the early phase of the race. So pretty exciting stuff so far, but it's immediately very, very tricky. And you can see just how difficult it is through EuroCup-3 at this stage of the race. Go onto the main straight again. Del Pino and Segreira are long gone, but now we've got Michael Shin, Emo Fittipaldi and Christian Ho very neatly lined up in this train. Sixth position behind them is Jessica Carrasquedo. Then we've got Michael Beloff. Then we've got Owen Tangavelu. Then we've got Dan Nogales. And then a little bit of a gap back to Valentin Klus, Nicolas Soloff and James Headley. Through they go again, through the S's. On the run through this long flowing left-hander, goes on for days. This is one of the few circuits that I've actually had the chance to do a lap of myself. Not on a race car, of course, it was on a moped, but still, you get a lot of uphill and down dale with this circuit, and the surface of the road is actually very greasy on the top surface of the tarmac. So it's a bit tough to look after. Right, Michael Shin's going defensive. Emma Fittipaldi trying to outfox him, trying to go late on the brakes. Christian Ho having a think about it on the inside line. All bets are off now. They're getting really frustrated, sat behind Michael Shin. Shin's best lap is a 1:39.7 compared to Bruno Del Pino on a 1:38.7. They're losing a second a lap roughly to the leaders, and this is not going good for Emma Fittipaldi or Christian Ho. Any chance of the win is disappearing, so they're getting really sick and tired of the sight of that rear wing in front of them. Come on, Michael, get out of the way! But Michael Shin is not moving aside. He is racing for position. He's got no obligation to get out of the way at all. He's racing them. And even though he's got a car that's not as quick as Fittipaldi, Ho or Carrasquillo behind him, all he has to do is place his car in the right part of the racetrack and they will not get through. Christian Ho having a big think on the inside of Emma Fittipaldi there. Not able to get the overtaking move, but it's just enough to let Emma Fittipaldi know, come on, if you can't get past Michael Shin, I'm going to get you first. So get on with it. Stop waiting around. Del Pino and Segurera long gone. And Michael Shin is sweating buckets in third position. They are forming up behind him. Fittipaldi, Ho, Carrasquillo, Belov, Tangavelu, Nogales and Klus. They are really starting to get frustrated. This is like when you're on the motorway and you're sat behind a tractor and you really want to make the overtaking move, but you know that it's going to be tricky because if you pull out, there's going to be a car coming the other way. Essentially, you're going to get dirty air coming the other way if you pull out of the draft. But Fittipaldi knows he's got to get on with it because Ho and Carrasquillo, the Campos teammates, are really going to struggle to hold themselves off for long. Carrasquillo having a think about his teammate. Maybe I can get past Christian Ho. He goes right way round the outside. And he goes right off on the gravel. Manages to catch it. But Michael Belov is now to his left-hand side, to his right-hand side, sorry. Belov's keeping his foot in. Michael Belov desperately trying to hang on to it. Whoa, that was close. They almost interlocked wheels, and that could have been a monstrous accident. But fair play to Carrasquillo for leaving the space there with Belov alongside him to his right. That could have been really nasty indeed, but fortunately they get away with it. So into the chicane, right, left, right, and back on the power again. Del Pino and Segurera are long gone. They're already halfway to Portugal. These guys are struggling to fend off from each other. And there is Owen Tangavelu, the MP car, the orange and black machine, down in 8th place, having originally been 4th on the grid, but trying to cement himself back into the points in a better position than he currently finds himself. This is one of those magnificent games of chess at over 180 kilometers an hour. You've really got to be careful how you position the car, where you position the car, where you calculate where the car's going to be placed, where you're going to look after tyres best, how you're going to measure it through the course of the race. Everything has to be taken into account. You can't just go gung-ho for the move and hope it sticks in this sport. In EUROCUP-3, you've really got to keep those tyres going the distance, and we've still got 17.5 minutes plus the additional lap. If you overcook a tyre and you flat spot it, you've got something that feels like a 50 pence piece in British money on one corner of your car. Fittipaldi down to the braking zone. He's not going to just dive in. Just wants to stay close enough to Shin that he can line himself up for a move. Now, everyone else is still circulating except for Garrett Berry, the British driver, now out of the race, having only completed 3 of the laps. And we're on lap 8 at the moment. So the British driver, Garrett Berry, he had a problem, came out of the pits, continued, then came back in again. Sorry, guys, it's game over for me. So Emma Fittipaldi still getting bitterly frustrated, staring at Michael Shin's rear wing, but he knows that he's got to think about the long game here as well as the move for 3rd position. It's all well and good to make the big dive and get into 3rd position, but if you flat spot the tyres in the process of getting there, then for the next 16 minutes, you're basically going to have the same condition of car. There is the leader, Javier Segurera. Oh, sorry, there is Bruno Del Pino, the leader. Behind him is the championship leader, Javier Segurera. Then we've got Michael Shin, Emma Fittipaldi, and Christian Ho. The first 3 cars in the train, but this is exactly what Bruno Del Pino wanted today after the misery of stalling the car on the grid from 2nd place and having to rejoin at the back of the field. Then work his way through to 11th position. It was good, but it wasn't quite good enough, sadly. So Bruno Del Pino now making good on that. 1:38.701, the fastest lap of the race so far. And he really is stretching out that gap between himself and Javier Segurera. 2.1 seconds. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in EuroCup-3 terms, when you've all got the same car, that's pretty good going from Bruno Del Pino. And given the time that Michael Shin is losing, they have stretched 7 seconds clear of Michael Shin in third position. So it's pretty exciting stuff at the moment. We are into the second race of the weekend here at the Circuito de Jerez in the EuroCup-3 Championship. Jake Sanson in the commentary box, Alex Garcia down in pit lane, and Bruno Del Pino leads the race here from Javier Segurera in second, Michael Shin in third place, then it's Emo Fittipaldi in front of the Singaporean Christian Ho, the Mexican Jesse Cadasquedo, Michael Belov in seventh in front of Owen Tangavelu, and Dan Nogales has gone into ninth place ahead of Valentin Klus, then Nicolas Solov, James Headley, Noah Lyle, and Teddy Jensen. Alex Abkasava, who won all the way back in Portimao, is way down in 15th position, not having the same fun that he had in Portugal. Then Diego de la Torre in front of Gaspar Lagaye of Switzerland and Joao Diaz of Colombia. Then Luciano Morano, Isaac Marashi, Georgi Shadavsky, Victoria Blokina, and then Linus and Emil Hellberg. 14 minutes and 45 seconds or so to go, plus the additional lap. So this is pressure rising on the third place man from Seoul in South Korea. Michael Shin still hanging on in third place in front of Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. Christian Ho, fifth position. And Emo Fittipaldi is desperately trying to get ahead of Michael Shin to put himself on the podium and bring home some silverware. 50 years to the day since his father, Emerson Fittipaldi, became the youngest double world champion in Formula One history at the time at Watkins Glen in the 1974 US Grand Prix for McLaren. So Emo Fittipaldi Jr. working hard to close up on Michael Shin. He's had a couple of looks, he's had a couple of attempts in the hairpin, but he's not quite been able to make the race come his way. Christian Ho, fifth position. Jessica Cadasquedo, sixth. Big mistake from Christian Ho. He ran very wide there, off on the grass, and he's lost the position of Jessica Cadasquedo, surely. Yes, indeed he has. Big mistake from Christian Ho, and that's devastating in terms of championship as well. That's cost him another big place. And Nicolas Solov, by the way, has lost ground to James Headley and Noah Lyle on this lap. So the Bulgarian Lion, Nicolas Solov, who's been racing in the FIA Formula 3 Championship for the majority of this season. That season obviously came to an end at Monza earlier this year. But Nicolas Solov is down to 13th. But even more important than that, Christian Ho runs wide and drops to 6th place behind his teammate, Jesse Cadasquedo. And that's even more points lost. If you're Javier Segurera looking at that at the end of this race, you are grinning like a Cheshire cat. 2.4 seconds is the gap between Bruno Del Pino and Javier Segurera now. Michael Shin, third position. What's happened to Emo Fittipaldi? Where's Emo Fittipaldi gone? Has the gap opened up enough that he's disappeared? Well, certainly that is Christian Ho under pressure now from Michael Belov. Oh no, we were just looking a little bit further back in the pack. I thought Fittipaldi had disappeared, but no, he is right there. Owen Tangavelu behind Michael Belov, then Dan Nogales and Valentin Klus, then Headley, Lyle, Solov, Jensen, Abkasava, and Diego de la Torre. So big pressure on Christian Ho now as he has dropped to 6th position. Big problems in terms of the championship battle now because that's big points he's going to lose. Javier Segurera is looking likely for 18 points from this race. Christian Ho is only currently looking at 8 points for 6th position. That means that Segurera is obviously going to pull 10 points further away from Christian Ho in the championship fight. And with that gap down to 20 points coming into this race, it's now going to be up again to 30 before we go to Catalonia. And that means that Javier Segurera can be champion in race 1 at Barcelona in November, unless something pretty dramatic happens. It was looking so good for Christian Ho yesterday. He pulled away to the tune of 9 seconds ahead of everybody yesterday. He was dominant. He was giant crushing. Nobody could get near him in race 1 yesterday. Race 2, it's a completely different story. It's a completely different racetrack in feel by the look of it. So Christian Ho was actually bragging at the end of the race yesterday saying, yeah, it was a good win, but I feel we had a little bit more pace. We could unlock that tomorrow. He won the race by 9 seconds. Today, Well, unfortunately, it looks like it's not going to go his way. 6th position at the moment, with Javier Segurera currently in 2nd place. There's Emo Fittipaldi, still trying to put pressure on Michael Shin, who's opened up the taps a little bit. He's just done a 38.3 for the first sector. Fittipaldi's done a 38.1. Christian Ho's done a 38.0. That is the fastest first sector of anybody in this race. So Emo Fittipaldi hanging in behind Michael Shin, really looking for a hard charge. And it's going to be an exciting battle. These drivers in EUROCUP-3 obviously hoping one day to be on the starting grid in Formula One, as the father of the man currently in 4th place has done, of course. Emo Fittipaldi Jr. His father Emerson is watching in pit lane. A very proud man indeed. He always cites it as a huge blessing that his son is able to continue the racing family's legacy. And of course, there's a number of Fittipaldis in the world of motorsport. Pietro Fittipaldi is, of course, still doing a good job out in IndyCar as the official reserve for the Haas team. He is, of course, the cousin of Emo, I do believe. So Brunel Pino ahead of Javier Segurera. They're long gone. We're watching the battle for 3rd position at the moment. Michael Shin ahead of Emo Fittipaldi, and then it is Jesse Cadascado ahead of Christian Ho. Now, you've got to start thinking about, well, Christian Ho's got a better chance of winning the championship than Jesse Cadascado does. Would Jesse Cadascado be asked to move aside? The answer is no. That doesn't work in the feeder series world. You don't get drivers moving aside for their teammates unless the driver elects to do it. The team would certainly never instruct it. Even though there's a team's championship, there's nowhere near the same credentials on the line as you'd get in Formula One. So it comes down to every driver for themselves. Shin, Fittipaldi, Cadascado, Ho, Belov, Tangavelu, Nogales and Klus. The remaining point scorers behind Brunel Pino in the lead and Javier Segurera in 2nd. We had a lights to flag race yesterday. No safety cars in EuroCup-3 in race 1. We are currently 9 minutes to go, plus the additional lap, of course. And again, no safety cars in EuroCup-3 this time. After some of the races this year where we've had a lot of chaos, you've only got to think back to Portimao, where we had several safety car periods through the course of the race. And obviously at Zandvoort, we had a huge accident involving Michael Shin barrel rolling his way up the hill. But so far, this race in EuroCup-3 has been clean as a whistle. And Emo Fittipaldi Jr. has basically had to back off away from Michael Shin for the last few laps, because you've got to manage the tyres a little bit more efficiently. You've got to wait and then have another go at him. You spend so much time in the dirty air. Yes, your engine is not working quite so hard. Yes, your brakes are not working quite as hard, but your tyres are still putting in a massive amount of exertion. So you've got to rein the car in a little bit. Try and look at where Michael Shin's placing the car. Look at where his braking point is. Look at where his entry point is. Look at where he's getting back on the power. You can read all of these things as a driver following another car, and you can adjust your driving, adjust your balance accordingly, and save a little bit in reserve. So Emo Fittipaldi knows that the win is gone. He knows that 2nd place is gone. The only thing he's invested in now is 3rd position, and he wants to stay close enough to Michael Shin with a slightly better car on brakes, a slightly better car on tyres, slightly better car on engine. He wants to use that advantage in the last couple of minutes. There's no good getting ahead of Michael Shin and throwing caution to the winds with 7 minutes to go when you've then got to play the exact same role Michael Shin has to defend for that length of time. You want to do it at the last possible minute. Get ahead, then scamper away with no time left for Michael Shin to retaliate. So Del Pino, Segurera, well clear. Then Shin and Fittipaldi from Cadascado and Ho. The rest of the field is starting to drop back a little bit behind them. So Belov in 7th place ahead of Tangavelu. Then Dan Nogales in front of Valentin Klus. Then it's James Headley ahead of Noah Lyle. Solov, Jensen, Abdisava, De La Torre. Then Gaspar Lagaye, Joao Diaz, Georgi Jaravski, and then Luciano Morano from Isaac Barashi, Victoria Blokina, and Linus and Emil Hellberg, the wildcards in the DXstar team. Down the main straight. 6.5 minutes plus the additional lap still to run. A really exciting situation for the contenders here in EuroCup-3, the 2nd race of the weekend here at Jerez. Do please keep those comments and messages coming on the YouTube stream. We're always really grateful to have your presence on the stream. Great to see so many people taking very much of an interest into what is happening out here on the course. And we can see naturally just how difficult it is for everybody to keep close to each other as they run through. There is the man definitely taking a big, bold run in the lead of the championship at this point. Javier Segurera having a very solid race of it at the moment. Going to be interesting to see how the contenders battle on. I noticed that one man cheering on our race leader is Enzo Deligny, the Red Bull youngster who is coached by the world karting champion twice over, Lorenzo Travasanuto. Enzo Deligny, of course, is the Frenchman who is part of the Red Bull Junior program. So he's cheering on his good friend Emo. They were very good friends in the karting world, and those friendships that you build in karting, they remain throughout your racing career. They are unbreakable. So Bruno Del Pino leading Javier Segurera, then Michael Shin, then Emo Fittipaldi, then Carrasquedo and Christian Ho. Look at the gap these two have managed to pull out over the rest of the cars behind. Michael Shin, here they come. Here's the rest of the field. Segurera in second place. This is perfect for him, especially now that Christian Ho has dropped back into second place. Dropped back into sixth position, I should say. It's Segurera who is in second. 3.2 seconds back from Bruno Del Pino, but he doesn't need to panic about that. Yes, Del Pino will pick up 25 points, but Segurera will pick up 18, and his main rival now in the championship, Christian Ho, is only going to pick up 8. So with the gap being down as low as 20 going into this race, the gap is going to open up again by 50% more. So he's going to be up to 30 points apiece, 30 points clear, I should say. And of course, there's going to be 54 points available at the last race weekend of the championship at Catalunya, the home of the Spanish Grand Prix in November. So there's a lot of preparation time to get those last 2 races in the can. But for Javier Segurera, this is absolutely what he wanted. This is what he was hoping for. A chance to pull clear and give himself... Right, yellow flags on the course. What's happened? Someone's gone. And it looks like Nicolas Solov. Nicolas Solov appears to have fallen away from the fray. So the Bulgarian Lion, who's been in Formula 3 all the way through this season, looks like he's out of the race. I'm not sure where it's happened, but with 3 minutes and 40 on the clock, Nicolas Solov is the cause of the yellow flag. He's dropped right the way down the field, and he has not come through at the end of the second sector. So I wonder if that's at the hairpin. We've got yellow flags at the moment, certainly no sign of a safety car yet. But with 3.5 minutes left on the clock, you would think that if we have a safety car now, we're going to finish under safety car. So we really hope it doesn't happen. And is that Christian Ho and Jesse Carrasquedo? Yes, it is. Christian Ho is ahead of Jesse Carrasquedo now. Well, there is a car stopped at gravel bed 5. The driver is okay. That is Nicolas Solov. So the driver is okay. He's in the gravel trap. But I think Christian Ho and Jesse Carrasquedo have traded places. Well, that is unprecedented for feeder series racing. I would expect those kind of team orders from Formula 1, but I certainly wouldn't expect it from EUROCUP-3. I think we're about to see a replay. So Fittipaldi closing in on Michael Shin, but if you look back, that's Christian Ho in 5th position. He's been allowed to overtake Jesse Carrasquedo. So was that Jesse helping out his teammate? Or did the team tell him to move aside? Wow. You don't see those kind of team orders in the junior ladder of motorsport every day. But obviously with Christian Ho having a good chance to be champion, has somebody had a word in somebody's ear? That is fascinating. Those kind of team orders do not normally creep into the feeder series world. Wow, this is pretty exciting stuff now. Del Pino out in front of Segurera still, and Shin still holding station in front of Fittipaldi, but now Christian Ho has got a chance to go for it. They're probably thinking if something happens with these two up front, and it could well happen in the final stages of this race, then there's a chance for Christian Ho to get back on the podium. But I am surprised that the Campos Racing team would make that kind of decision, because it's single-seater racing, it's the junior ladder. You know, there's no team orders usually in the world of junior ladder racing. It's basically every driver for themselves, get the best result you can, deal with the consequences. But it looks as though at Campos, they've decided, look, Christian Ho's got a chance to win the championship. Here, Mo Fittipaldi slides. That's going to cost him a lot of momentum to the back of Michael Shin's car. But Christian Ho's got a little bit of an issue there. Right, the yellow flags have been withdrawn, and the race control have told us that car number 9, that's Nicholas Solov, will stay at his current position until the end of the race, and that is at turn 5, which I think is the corner we're about to go through. So, are we about to see a GRS car off to the sidelines? Well, I haven't seen one, but certainly Nicholas Solov, the Bulgarian Lion, is out of the race. We're going to run out of seconds on the next lap, I do believe. But I'm surprised, actually, that A, we haven't had a safety car, and B, Christian Ho has been allowed to overtake his teammate Jessica Shkado. That is unusual. So Del Pino, oh, and there's a broken car. That's another broken car. Well, that is going to bring out the safety car with a couple of seconds left of the race, because that car's not moving. That is Theodor Jensen in the Polo. So Theodor Jensen, the car is stationary on the exit of the hairpin, and that's going to trigger a safety car with a few seconds left of the race, because surely that car can't be moved in time. They're going to come across the line, 3, 2, 1, 0. So we're on the penultimate lap now, whatever happens, and the safety car has been called. I can't believe it. Well, the race is going to end then under safety car conditions. Bitter disappointment. So something's happened. Theodor Jensen, oh, he's gone. It's the man behind who's gone for the move. That is Alex Abkasava, and I'm afraid that is such a gutsy move from Alex Abkasava. They've locked wheels, and Jensen's car, the front right suspension is destroyed. That was ridiculously ambitious by Alex Abkasava. I don't think that move was ever going to work in a month of Sundays, but he clearly just decided, enough, there's a gap, I'm going for it. And as Ayrton Senna himself once said, if you don't go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. But unfortunately, that gap was never going to open up enough for him. And if you're Emo Fittipaldi right now, you are absolutely seething. You are enraged that this race is now going to end under safety car. I could have had him. That could have been my podium. We'll never know. We'll never know if he would have made it. That's bitterly, bitterly disappointing, isn't it? We had a great race going on there, and that could have gone all the way to the flag. There could have been an amazing battle. But I'm afraid that's going to be game over. So the race is going to end under safety car. There is Bruno Del Pino in front of Javier Segrera. They're going to cross the line to start the final lap, but the safety car is going to pick them up. So, as the regulations go, it's going to be a finish under safety car. Now, it's interesting because Joshua Wilson says they might as well red flag it. Well, no, technically you can't red flag it because the race still technically needs to run to its full duration. It can finish under safety car because there can be mechanical difficulties behind the safety car. So, you have to allow the safety car to do its job. You have to let the race protocol run. The only time you would call a red flag is if it was a particularly dangerous situation, but it isn't a particularly dangerous situation, so the race can run under safety car to the end. So that means we're going to get a Spanish 1-2 on home soil. Bruno Del Pino ahead of Javier Segrera, and Segrera is going to move one step closer to becoming EUROCUP-3 2024 champion. 30 points will be his lead over Christian Ho. Well, no, it's actually going to be 28 points now because Christian Ho is in 5th rather than 6th. That's going to be an interesting question. I wonder if Alex Garcia is going to be able to tell us, was Christian Ho allowed through by the Campos team? Did Jessica Shkado get the order to move aside? Or was that a legitimate overtake? It didn't look like a legitimate overtake to me. It looked to me like Gadashkeda was moving aside and letting Christian Ho go. Was that generosity by the driver, or was that force majeure by the team? Fascinating. So that means that Christian Ho will score 10 points rather than 8. If they're going with the attitude, well, Christian Ho would have finished 5th position had he not run wide, so we may as well let him have it back. Well, that doesn't work in my book. He made the mistake. He lost the position. So Campos clearly deciding that they want him to have the best chance of winning this title. The checkered flag will be taken under the safety car procedure, so there is no overtaking. And there is a bitterly unhappy Theodor Jensen, and I think he's got every reason to be unhappy, actually. That move from Alexander Kasava was ambitious. He made it work, but not without some contact, and I have a feeling that Alexander Kasava could have an investigation into him after the race. What it means, though, is that Bruno Del Pino is going to make up handsomely for the mistake yesterday. He stalled the engine on the starting grid from second position on the grid. He dropped right to the back. He had to fight his way through. He couldn't make it to the points yesterday. Today, he will put that misdemeanor right, and he will bounce back in fantastic fashion. He is a lovely young lad, is Bruno Del Pino. He has always been his worst critic, but now he gets to deliver in spades with a fantastic drive. Javier Segura is going to come through for second to extend his championship lead by 20 points to 30 points. And Michael Shin, great defensive tactics to third. The checkered flag flies. Bruno Del Pino wins race 2 here at Circuito de Jerez. The second EuroCup-3 race ends behind the safety car. And it's Bruno Del Pino that takes the victory. What a magnificent comeback for Bruno Del Pino. He thoroughly deserves that win. Great race from Bruno Del Pino. Epic drive. And that is a great way to repay the mechanics for their hard work after making the mistake yesterday. That's ancient history now. Bruno Del Pino is a winner again in EuroCup-3 in 2024. Excellent stuff from the Spaniard here at Jerez, in front of Javier Segura, who has just taken a giant leap forward to become EuroCup-3 champion. He isn't the champion yet, but he has a great chance of getting the job done at the last round of the championship in 4 weeks' time at the Circuit de Catalunya at Momelo in Barcelona. A nice handshake there between Bruno Del Pino and Michael Shin from a distance. As Bruno Del Pino thumbs up to Michael Shin, congratulates him on his great work to finish in third place. Sadly, there is no podium for Emo Fittipaldi. 50 years to the day since his father became the two-time Formula One world champion for McLaren. But he still put in a great race nonetheless. Christian Ho will take the rookie win ahead of Valentin Klus and Georgi Zhidavsky. But all the stories are going to be about Bruno Del Pino and his flamboyant comeback and the ironclad defense of Michael Shin, not allowing anybody through. Great work from the Korean. There was a lot of pressure on him to get that right. And it's been a really exciting battle for all of the contenders. They've really worked hard for this. And certainly for Bruno Del Pino, victory is well deserved. Segura in second. Michael Shin is third from Emo Fittipaldi Jr. Fifth place for Christian Ho. Not where he wanted to be at all, the leading rookie. Jesse Kadashkado sixth from Michael Belov, Owen Tagavelu, Dan Nogales, and Valentin Klus, who finishes up in 10th place for Campos. Then it's James Headley for Santalok, just missing out on a championship point, ahead of Noah Lyle, then Gaspard Lagaye and Alexander Kasava, Georgi Zhidavsky, Diego De La Torre, Joao Diaz, Luciano Morano, Isaac Barashi and Victoria Blachino ahead of Linus Hellberg and Emil Hellberg. The retirements came in from behind Theodor Jensen, Nicolas Solov, and Garrett Berry. But getting out of the car to celebrate in style will be Bruno Del Pino. He was the rookie champion last year. He may not get the chance to be champion this year, but this will more than make up for the disappointment of yesterday. It ain't over till it's over. And Bruno Del Pino is still a fighter and still a phenomenal race winner in EuroCup-3. Yesterday is ancient history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today he's given his MP team a phenomenal gift. You've got to love the present. Well done to Bruno Del Pino. Excellent racecraft. Just pulled away and disappeared out front. No issues at all, no problems from his teammate Javier Segura, who's happy to come home in second place with Michael Shin in third. For the championship, it works out very well indeed for Javier Segura. Not so good for Christian Ho. There is Michael Shin, a very happy Korean driver. Another podium finish after what's been a very topsy-turvy season, but he's certainly come through for a good result. Here's the replay of the early battle for position. Look how close Emo Fittipaldi Jr. came to getting Michael Shin on that opening lap. Could so easily have been the race victory Certainly could have been a podium for Emo Fittipaldi Jr. We'll never know if he'll get the chance, if he would have had the opportunity to go through. That was his best real chance to get up the inside. He had a really good go of it, but he's a sportsman as well as a racer. He was not going to kick Michael Shin to the curb. He wanted to race him fairly and squarely. Even if he's defeated by him, you cannot say that Emo Fittipaldi wasn't a clean racer today, because he absolutely was. He gave it everything he had. Christian Ho having a good go to try and work his way forward as well. And then this from Alexander Kasaba. We didn't quite get to see the rest of that, but it ended up in a collision with Theodor Jensen, and that is sadly what brought us to a safety car finish. Michael Shin can be satisfied with that, though, in third position. A good run from the Korean, and certainly a good performance from the Campos team to break up the happy family of MP, who could easily have dominated the podium today. Tankavelu ending up 8th. Emo Fittipaldi ending up 4th. So the Campos man from South Korea does break through and get into the podium paying positions. Third place for Michael Shin. His teammate from Singapore, Christian Ho, will be on the rookie podium, but he's not particularly happy about it. 5th position is frustrating for Christian Ho. He comes over to congratulate his teammate, but you can see there's very little enthusiasm in the body language of Christian Ho. He knows that that was a chance to get closer in the championship, and now he's even further away than when the weekend began. Bitter disappointment then for Christian Ho. 28 points back going into the last 2 races of the year, and with 25 points available for the win, if Segreira beats Ho in the first race of the weekend at Barcelona, he'll be champion. For Bruno Del Pino, he can just be happy with a race win that was well and truly deserved. Great to see Bruno Del Pino bouncing back after his misery yesterday, and hopefully he's down there with Alex Garcia.
We'll have him in a moment. He's, of course, very, very happy, Bruno Del Pino, celebrating with his family, with his friends, with his team. He ran away for a moment. Bruno, don't go away. That was a very, very well-deserved victory, and I think one that you needed very much after yesterday.
Yeah, obviously yesterday wasn't the best of the days I had so far. Obviously this is a really, really good Sunday. Managed to get pole position, fastest lap in P1. Obviously a bit salty feeling because I couldn't manage to finish the race with a 5-6 second gap that I built throughout the race. Finishing off safety car obviously is not the best, but I mean the points are the same, 25 points. I'm really happy of it.
And now talking about the title fight, yes, it's difficult, but it's all to fight for in Barcelona. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's really difficult, obviously, because the engine failures and the problems on the car that I had throughout the season, also especially yesterday, my mistake. But it's never impossible. Obviously, get this win is a really good thing towards the championship. I'm just trying to have a really good weekend in Barcelona, no mistakes, and try to maximize the points. And hopefully the rivals, they make mistakes, and we can get a chance of winning the championship.
All right, Bruno, congratulations. Enjoy the win. Enjoy the rest until Barcelona then.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So that was Bruno Del Pino, as you saw. He was bouncing in happiness after a very, very well-deserved win, and especially after yesterday's issues. Surely he needed that. We saw him in the paddock yesterday. He was quite downbeat, quite downcast, just as Christian Ho was right now. And I was listening to you earlier, Jake, and I know that you're curious to know what happened exactly with Campos, with that position switch. We made sure to go and ask the team, but you know, we had a non-committal gesture, a non-answer, a no comment. So make of that what you will. But if you had to ask me, I would say that that very much looked like team orders.
Yeah, very interesting that nobody was willing to give an answer to whether Christian Ho was allowed by or not. But yeah, I agree with you. It looked very blatant that Carrasquedo was either being very friendly or the team asked him to move aside. But the fact that they won't comment on it pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Now we need to focus on Catalonia, the last 2 races of the season, 4 weeks from now. It's looking really difficult for Bruno Del Pino, but it's looking quite tough now for Christian Ho. 28 points back. All Segreira has to do is stay ahead of Christian Ho in the first race of the weekend, and he wins the championship. That's got to be on his mind right now.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where things are starting to fall into place, but then again, we know how things can change in one race, you know, completely. We saw what happened yesterday with Bruno Del Pino. The same thing could happen to any of the title contenders in Barcelona in race 1, and then everything would be up in the air for race 2, or there could be any contact in the race or just a bad qualifying. So yes, things are looking very good for Javier Sagrera, but I'm pretty sure that he will be very mindful to make sure that there are no mistakes, because that's the last thing that he would want. Usually when drivers are in this kind of position with this kind of advantage, you know that, Jake, they tend to not take too many risks. As long as he can trail his rivals, he doesn't need to win it, he doesn't need to dominate, he doesn't need to take risks. That is enough. Now, will it be enough? The machine will respond, qualifying will be fine. Will there be any rain? There's a lot of ingredients that could spice things up. So I would say let's enjoy the wait, but it's looking like a very, very interesting end of the season for sure.
So we're going to have to wait 4 weeks until that weekend in Catalonia. But of course, we had the news come through on Friday that there is going to be a EUROCUP-3 and F4 Spanish Championship Winter Series as well, which is going to be taking place through February to the first week of March. So not quite as big a wait for the next encounter of EUROCUP-3. What do you think is that going to mean for a few of the drivers here? Those missed opportunities, those close encounters with the race victory, are we likely to see some of the rookies returning? Maybe that's going to be a great chance for Valentin Klus to come back and have another go and maybe go for an overall victory. Maybe the likes of Bruno Del Pino wanting to put right the championship misdemeanor. If he doesn't get the championship, maybe he'll just want to finish his EuroCup-3 experience with the winter title. That new championship is going to give a lot of drivers and teams the chance to think about, what are we going to do in February and March? Are we going to give this another go?
I think it all depends on what every driver's plans are for next year. So, for example, if any driver is going to take part in EuroCup-3 in the 2025 season, then the Winter Championship is definitely a very, very good opportunity. If you have the budget for it, let's not forget about that. But it is a very good opportunity because you get more track time, you get more car time, you get more experience with it. And of course, any race win, any success is one that you can carry with you into finding sponsors, into finding support, or into convincing a bigger Formula One team to support you. So for sure it's going to depend on that. But maybe, just maybe, some of the drivers who have been racing this year, even if they move to other categories next year, they might want to have, a little bit of a last hurrah and can try to get a good result.
Yeah, because we've seen the likes of Nikola Tsolov come into this championship and have a go at racing in EuroCup-3 alongside his Formula 3 campaign. As you say, this is a much more physical racing car than the Formula 3, so that extra bit of track time obviously really helping. But for those drivers who have been racing in Spanish F4 or even another form of F4 over the last season, to then look at the EuroCup-3 Winter Series as a nice segue into whatever program they're doing, could be a fascinating winter championship.
Exactly, and we could even have some drivers who are jumping from Formula Regional European to Formula 3, for example, and finding here in EuroCup-3 Winter Series a very good place to spend those, let's say, 5-6 weeks, because it's a way to get more track time, and it's not just testing, it's a racing experience which I think drivers value a lot more than plain testing. So that could be something that we would see. We might see very different grids from EuroCup-3 winter to the proper season. But that's what makes it interesting, because it is a different series. It's not part of the main championship, so we don't have to treat it as such.
Well, Alex, I know they're underway with the podium, and you've got race 3 of the F4 Spanish Championship to get ready for this afternoon. So thank you very much for your contribution to EuroCup-3 this weekend. We'll obviously see you for more EC3 in Barcelona, and we'll see you later this afternoon for the 3rd Spanish F4 race. Gracias, mi amigo.
A pleasure, Jake, and looking forward to the last round of EuroCup, and of course, next race in Formula 4 Spain here in Jerez.
So to the podium ceremony then, where Michael Shin, Javier Sagrera and Bruno Del Pino are lifting their trophies, particularly for Javier Sagrera. He knows this 2nd position, with Christian Ho being in 5th position, takes him one step closer to becoming the EuroCup-3 champion for 2024. Big opportunity for him, he knows that. And it's really going to be an exciting continuation. 4 weeks now to wait for the last 2 races of the year in EuroCup-3 at the Circuit de Catalunya at Montmeló, just outside the main city of Barcelona. And look who's coming out to present the winner's trophy. Emerson Fittipaldi. 50 years to the day since he became the double Formula One world champion, winning the US Grand Prix of 1974 on this very day for McLaren. What a wonderful gesture. His son is not on the podium, but that is not going to stop Emerson Fittipaldi enjoying his retirement from racing. And what a wonderful way that is. That's going to be special to Bruno Del Pino as well. A wonderful congratulations from a Formula One legend. The national anthem for Spain on the podium for Bruno Del Pino. Congratulations to Bruno Del Pino, a fabulous comeback after the misery of yesterday. For Javier Segurera, his championship lead is 28 points with 2 races to go. For Christian Ho, it's back to the drawing board for the Campos man from Singapore. 2 races to go in the season at the Circuit de Catalunya on the second weekend of November. And as Emerson Fittipaldi, the legendary Formula One world champion twice over, joins the EUROCUP-3 drivers on the podium, it's a moment of reflection for MP. Very nearly, the job is done. But can Campos bounce back? Can Bruno Del Pino storm an upset and take the title away from his teammate Javier Segurera? Or can the Spaniard, who has led since the first race of the season, Javier Segurera, hang on to it and keep the championship in his favour? As the boys in Jerez get busy with the fizzy. From Jake Sanson and Alex Garcia, thank you very much for watching Race 2 here at EuroCup-3 in Jerez. We'll see you in 4 weeks' time at Barcelona on the Circuit de Catalunya. Adios, amigos.